All right, here. So I get this question all the time, like, what do you do when people are quitting on their journey or they don't want to continue on their journey? The most common question, probably one of the most common questions I get. And I just did a live with somebody. And I was like, it's inspired me. I got to do another one. So I'm going to do this live on not giving up. Like, and it's funny because when you think about it, it's probably the single hardest thing that people have to go through is their own willingness to keep moving forward, because it's easy just to stop. Like when people are on a health journey, they're going to lose weight, and if they're not losing weight fast enough, what happens is they stop. And inevitably they search for 20, 30, 40 things. The reality is what they started with was probably the closest thing to get them going. It's usually that simple. And it just could be business, it could be anything, right? It's like, you start, things are always hard. I was talking about, like, even you got some people like LeBron James. LeBron James is going through it right now at the end of his career. He's the best in the world, one of the best ever basketball players, but yet he's going through this. Do I give up or do I keep pushing through? And then there's a time where you have to retire or transition life, and that's a whole nother topic. But let's talk about health journey really quick. So people that are going through a health journey, maybe they're not health, they're not well, maybe they're overweight, maybe they're not fit, and they start the gym. They get New Year's resolution come up, they start the gym, and at some point it's going to get really hard. It's going to be uncomfortable. And the question is why do some people move forward and some don't? The lady that I just interviewed, Jen, if you guys know Jen Mann, she's doing well. She's down 70 pounds, but she started 5 years ago. She tried our product and she didn't like the flavor. And people were like, she's like, oh, but it's just the flavor. But it wasn't about the flavor. She wasn't ready to really commit to the change of her life. That's really what it was. That's all it was. And because now she'll drink the flavor, right? Doesn't really care because she's committed to changing her life. And 2 years ago, she started again. She started over 3 years after starting. She started again. But why did she not quit this time? Does that make sense? Like, what about this time was different? And it's like either the pain was big enough, or her desire to change her life was greater, or she was looking forward to something in the future. And it's just really interesting. Hey, Jen, I'm talking about you. You got me all inspired about this giving up thing. I had to just come on and do my live on it. But, we hear these stories from history all the time, like the light at the end of the tunnel, right? It's the darkest before the dawn. Is that how the statement goes? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. It's always the darkest before the dawn. And or the grass. This is the one that my brain works with, is like, if you have this is the earth, this is dirt, earth piece. This is the seed of grass. Grass is underneath the earth, and right before it punctures through the earth, right before it punctures through the earth is when it's the hardest. Things are the hardest. So it's that moment right there when you can just give up, or if you break through, everything can change. Right, the whole world's open, and I was on with Jen, and right now her whole world is changing. And what's interesting for me is I get to see this, and then I know that there's so much more she gets to see now. And she still, it's all new. It's like a newborn baby. You're kind of like, oh, look at that, look at that, look at that. Going to Disney World for the first time, you're just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is amazing, this is amazing. It's the first time you've ever seen it. Now, if you go there 100 times, it's kind of like, yeah, oh yeah, right? So she's in this new world, right? And so we're always trying to break through to a new concept. If you become the greatest basketball player of all time, or one of them, and then you retire, you have to break through again. It doesn't change. It's still there. Now, maybe it comes a muscle, and our CEO, Brian Underwood, talks about this a lot. Like, you have to build the muscle of the breakthrough, that it is going to be a little challenging. And if you can find a way to embrace that challenge, your life can forever change. But it's just interesting because it's like, at the end of the day, what keeps people from quitting and giving up? And I don't have an answer at all. If you guys have any answers, tell me. Because it's easy to say. I think I said this in one of my writings. I said it's easy to say. The words "don't give up" are one of the easiest things to say, but yet one of the most challenging things for people to do. And they don't know. And what happens when people give up is that you justify it in yourself. Like, you find a way to convince yourself that that's what you're going to do. If that makes any sense. Like, there's a reason behind it. And I have a few situations in my life where I would say I quit or gave up. I hate using the word quit. But in essence, maybe I did. It's interesting because I don't know, because it's like, part of me is like, I did, but I didn't. Like, so I was in a recon unit, and my very first evaluation that I did, I actually was in the treading water, and I could do it. But for whatever reason, I was panicking. I was literally drowning myself. I was like, I couldn't stay. We had to tread water for 30 minutes, which isn't that big of a deal. We had our boots on and our clothes on, but still not that big of a deal. Yes, I'd already been up for 5 hours. Yes, I'd already ran 3 miles and did my pull-ups and all my other tests. Yes, we had got hazed, and yes, we had to do a lot of other stuff. But I called it. I'm like, I can't. And I went and touched the side of the pool, and I was out. I was done. And I gave up. Now, interesting enough, I went back and did it again, and I got through. Right. And so I didn't quit, I guess, but I gave up in that moment. And it's an interesting thing because I know I could do it. Like that's the thing, is that I knew that I could get through. Like anybody that starts a journey, you know you can do it, but then there's something that stops you. But after I quit or gave up, I constantly was like, the boots, and I constantly in my head was trying to justify why I did it so that I made myself feel better, right? So I didn't go crazy. I didn't want to go crazy. So it's just really kind of an interesting journey. Um, and so yeah, it's if you have the secret to not giving up and keep persevering forward, what I can tell you, there's a muscle in there. What I can tell you that it's something to do with you, maybe with kid thing. My wife and I, we were up really late last night. Get your heads out of the gutter. We're just discussing. We've been doing these late night talks, and it's good. I really enjoy it, although it gets really late. It can get really late. But we were talking about like our kids and this whole same concept. Like, what's worse? And that's not the right way to word things. But what's worse? Making things really fun and easy for your kids without challenging them, or holding them to a high standard and then maybe not liking you as much. Maybe them having some, just because we have some friends that, their parents really are hard on them, were hard on them, but they're all like extremely successful, like they have good lives, but yet what's the trade-off? Like, right, if their parents would have maybe not been that way, and maybe there's some of them in the middle, I don't know, we're working on that. But it was just interesting, teaching innately inside of us, right? Do we have a tendency to not like, is it a personality trait? I don't know. It's all fascinating to me. Why do people give up? Why are people starting our product and then stopping? When it's the number one supplement in the history of the world. And this is my quote, but the science is just there. I'm pretty well qualified to make that statement. We're literally, I'm talking with outer space, like NASA, former chairman of NASA. I'm talking about like going to outer space and Mars trips and ketones. And, somebody's like, I didn't lose 5 pounds on the product. Like, it has been tested as the number one performance product ever. Performance. That means for anybody, not just athletes, anybody to perform better. Like, it's pretty magical, right? What we have is remarkably magical. So it's not the product, right? But people will sometimes say that, like, oh, I didn't like the flavor, or oh, it messed, my GI tract had to adjust, and I didn't like that. So they stop on changing their life forever, even though that it's all there for them. And so it's just a real interesting concept. And so I wish I had a better answer. What I can tell you though, after 8 years of doing this, and I've been in the coaching world for 20 plus years, is that everybody comes back. People start and stop, and that's just something I had to get used to as a coach, because you'd hire somebody. And here's the funny thing is most of the time when people started with me and they quit and they came back, they felt guilty they gave up on me. I thought that was interesting, right? It wasn't about me, but meaning like they committed to working with me to change their life. They quit, or they stopped. They gave up. However, you don't quit. You don't really fail unless you fully quit, I guess. So maybe they gave up, but then when they came back, they always felt like, man, I'm so sorry I let you down. I'm sorry that I wasn't fully committed. I'm like, why you apologize to me? Like, apologize to yourself, but don't do it again next time. And so, we have a kind of a rule. It's like, if 2 times it happens, then it's you need to change you, right? Like, there's no evidence to suggest that it won't happen again. That makes any sense? So what's changing in you? And this is something I asked myself. My wife and I came up with this really cool thing. That's another story, but a really cool agreement, because as a practitioner, clients would come to me with the same problem sometimes, and I'm like, I already addressed that. And she goes, it's not them, it's how you deliver the message. And I was like, oh, because the problem was me, not them. right? It was easy for me to blame them, but it wasn't. I was giving them the solution, but they weren't receiving the solution, if that makes any sense. And I kept blaming them for it. She goes, "Well, why don't you look within, change the way you deliver it, and see what happens?" And I did that, and it's remarkable how much better they got. So anyway, so I don't know where this is all going. I have no idea where this is going. But if you guys have any advice on not giving up, what I'm going to tell you is this: is that we all go through challenges. Like people will look at my life and go, "Oh my God, it must be nice having this or that or this or that." I mean, I got struggles. Like I'm just telling you, we have things that make things hard. You know, like you set a goal and you want to go achieve it. It's sometimes easier just to stay in bed. It truly is. Um, and it doesn't have to be work, but you have to stay focused, excited. You have to know that it might get challenging. Don't expect it to get challenging. Don't expect it to be hard. That's a buddy of mine messed that one up. Uh, we always say that the person that has the most success is the person that overcomes the most problems. So he started looking for problems. Don't look for problems. They'll find, like, I don't even like to use the word problems, but complications, learning experiences are going to find you, right? As soon as you go into a new, if you go and if you've never been to Dubai and you travel to Dubai, you're going to find situations that you've never been in before. So you have to overcome that. Like that's an easy thing to kind of understand, right? You have to overcome that experience before. But once you do it a few times, it's easy. So the person that has the greatest success is the one that puts themselves in environments to overcome more things. They're getting uncomfortable to grow. They're expanding their capabilities of accomplishment, right? And that builds strength and momentum to get better. And that's why I give Jen a big shout out because that woman, she never did a live before I met her. She'd never traveled much ever. I don't know if she'd ever been on an airplane. The first time she'd been on an airplane, she definitely never traveled alone. And now she just got her passport, right? And now she's been on multiple trips, traveled alone, doing all these crazy, amazing things. And to me, that's super, super remarkable because she doesn't realize how much stronger she's becoming. She probably does, but she also may not see yet how much she's changing the people around her because she's willing to go through and make it, even though it seems hard or complicated, she's building a muscle of making things easy. So what's up, Michael? A little UK in the house. Way to go, Jen. Yeah, super excited. Big shout out to Miss Norma. Norma, I need to do our live. Maybe we'll schedule that this week, next week. I don't know when we should do that. But if you guys ever want to, it's interesting. Like, why do some people give up and some people don't? I, I don't know. It's just one of those things. I don't know. Like, it's easier. It's easier to not do it than it is to do it, probably. But you also have to live with the fact that you never did it. And I don't know if that's easier. If that makes any sense. That might be a good quote. I don't know. It's easier to not do it than to do it sometimes when it's hard. But you also have to live with the fact that you never did it. And the I guess living with regret is probably one of the most torturous things. Maybe that is the definition of hell. Maybe that'd be it, right? The closest thing that we could ever in this planet, on this earth to have is the regret of what it could have been. And I couldn't imagine. I mean that may be it, right? The regret. I mean, uh I've watched people pass on. I'm not going to give details, but I've watched people pass on to this planet into another world, and in their eyes you saw the regret. You saw the fear and the scarcity, and it's the worst feeling in the world to ever see, right? Watching somebody pass that didn't that regretted a lot of choices that they made. I couldn't imagine. I just couldn't imagine that that's what I'd go out in. And maybe that's the thing is maybe but that's a negative thing. I hate putting a negative like content on it. But that's when I saw that, I just made me realize is that I owe it to not. I don't want that's my hell is to regret something. So the other way I looked at it was. We went to Germany, and so I told Jen the story. We went to Germany, and we actually went to the house where my wife's great 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 great. I don't know how many greats it is, but many generations ago, the house they left to come from Germany to America. So there's three brothers. They walked out of the house to never go home again. And I was telling her we were sitting down having coffee after we were at this house. It was kind of a scavenger hunt to find out her like. It's something I'm passionate about is finding our ancestral lines, but I don't want to just care where they come from. I want to go see where they came from. I want to go and like actually go there and wonder why did they leave this beautiful place to go to southern Minnesota. Like that seems kind of a odd place to stop. Um, I have another story about that, but I go, we kind of owe it to those guys for committing this. Like, think about that. Think about leaving your house and never go back. Think about the risk, the either how bad it was there or how exciting it was here. It's like there's a reason to go one way or the other, right? And I was like, we kind of owe it to those three brothers, and really the whole family, right? Because not just only did the brothers leave, but the, the, their parents had to let them like go. Like, we'll never see you again. We'll probably never see you again, but leave this house to never be seen again by us, so that you can create more for the future of our family, the next generations. I go, we kind of owe it to them to give it our all, right? We kind of owe it. Like, if they're willing to do that, what are you willing to go through, right? And this is how I think. I know I'm maybe weird, maybe not, but like when things are tough, you kind of like, how tough was it for them? I have a friend of mine, his mom literally smuggled them into America. They got caught at the border. She didn't speak English. And then somehow she still was able to get through, raised her boys or kids in southern or in Florida so that they could have a whole new life. Well, guess what? Like like those boys worked their butts off because mom did everything she could to give them the chance to have a whole different life. That's how bad things were there. She was willing to go through all that. And so as we're wrapping up, you're now not only able honoring the people of our past that helped us get to here, but you're also creating the new benchmark of what people can create in their future. So if you have parents, if you have grandkids, you have sisters and siblings or friends, this is an opportunity for you to show them that they can do it too. So don't ever give up. Just keep going. Hey, guess what? And I promise you this is like taking a break is not giving up. Taking a break sometimes might just be perspective. It might be, hey, listen, you know what? It's one of the things I love about plateaus. If you ever read a book called Mastery, it's actually a really cool book. Plateau doesn't have to be a negative thing. Too many people think of a plateau as a negative thing. A plateau is a way to gain perspective, establish a new normal, and then build off of. And so sometimes we need to maintain that. Sometimes you can't, like people are trying to lose 200 pounds or 150 pounds. Well, it might be the healthiest thing for you to lose 60 and stay there for 2 or 3 months so that you can gain better health to go for the rest. That might be the best solution for you. But what happens is people want to see it always moving. And what ends up happening is that they change and then they start going backwards because they changed the approach and it was already working the whole time. So plateaus aren't a bad thing. That doesn't mean you're quitting or giving up. What it means is that it might just be the right thing to do. So that's tough too. It's you might stay at the edge of the grass for a long time before you break through, and that's a plateau, right? It's a plateau, but it had to be the right environment up above. It was still wintertime. And because it was still wintertime, it didn't break through because you would have died, right? If that makes any sense. Man, this grass analogy is so good. So, oh, Steve, what's up, man? I hope you're well. I hope you're well. Hope you're well. Anyway, guys, I gotta go. Have a great day. Happy holidays to all of you. Appreciate you plugging in with me, and don't give up. Just keep going. New Year around the corner, and let's have some fun. But have an awesome holiday. Merry Christmas, and happy holiday, and happy New Year's. Cheers.